Throughout its extensive history, the Roman Empire had remarkable emperors like Augustus, the first to hold such a revered title, and Trajan, whose reign marked the peak of Rome's territorial expansion. In fact, as a testament to their greatness, when a new emperor ascended, the Senate would express the wish, "May you be more fortunate than Augustus and better than Trajan." However, amidst the brilliance of these rulers, Rome's records also document emperors with dismal legacies, tyrants driven by base desires, neglectful of their imperial duties, or merciless in their personal vendettas. This is the narrative of Rome's most notorious sovereigns. Tiberius Julius Caesar Augustus, better known as Tiberius, was the second Roman emperor. Born in the year 42 BC in the imperial capital into a powerful family, he demonstrated his military prowess from a young age, participating in various campaigns, including the Cantabrian Wars in Hispania, where he achieved his early successes. His numerous military triumphs garnered him prestige and fame. However, for reasons that remain unclear, in 6 BC, he chose to retreat from political life and withdraw to the island of Rhodes. Some historians suggest this decision stemmed from disillusionment with Emperor Augustus's favoritism towards other potential heirs to the throne. Nevertheless, as these contenders perished, Augustus turned to Tiberius for succession. Thus, following Augustus's death, Tiberius ascended to the throne in AD 14. During his reign, he displayed little interest in political affairs, focusing instead on bolstering the empire's defenses rather than pursuing further expansion. Described as withdrawn and reclusive, Tiberius's character deteriorated further after the death of his son Drusus. He began to delegate more authority to Sejanus, his trusted confidant and the leader of the Praetorian Guard, and opted to retreat to the island of Capri. Historian Suetonius alleges Tiberius engaged in various sexual perversions during this period, though the veracity of these claims is debated. Sejanus, due to his abuse of the power bestowed upon him, ultimately lost favor with Tiberius and was executed. This incident further deepened the emperor's mistrust, leading him to order the execution of numerous individuals on the sole pretext of their associations with Sejanus. Accounts of Tiberius's death vary. Tacitus suggests he died in AD 37, aged 77, suffocated by Naevius Sutorius Macro, commander of the Praetorian Guard. Although Tiberius has often been criticized by historians as an ineffective emperor, the critique primarily targets his lack of engagement and indifference, not necessarily poor decision-making, but rather his hesitation to make decisions at all. It's probable that he was judged harshly due to the immense pressure of succeeding the esteemed Augustus, yet his rule also had its merits. Notably, he left the imperial treasury well-funded by cutting back on significant expenses, such as the funding for gladiatorial contests. Commodus, born Lucius Aurelius Commodus in 161 in Lanuvium, was the 18th emperor of Rome. He was the son of Marcus Aurelius, the last of the so-called five good emperors, and a prominent figure in Stoic philosophy. In the year 180, at the age of 18, Commodus ascended to supreme power upon his father's death. However, for the preceding 3 years, he had already been co-ruling alongside his father. Under Commodus's reign, there was a decline in military engagement, partly attributed to the emperor's diminishing attention to it. This neglect extended to the internal governance of the empire, resulting in a phase of considerable instability. Yet the general populace didn't dislike Commodus, given that he shared their intense enthusiasm for games and gladiator fights, spending vast amounts of money on these events. Commodus, seeing himself as the mythical Hercules, took part in numerous gladiatorial combats, naturally always emerging victorious. He enjoyed the arena's battles, not just against human opponents, but also in killing animals of various kinds. Dio Cassius, a historian who lived during Commodus's time, reports that the emperor, in addition to commanding the unwarranted execution of numerous individuals, once horrifyingly assembled several disabled city dwellers and personally beat them to death with a club. In his final days, Commodus's megalomania reached a peak, leading him to decide on renaming everything around him in his honor. Consequently, he instructed the city of Rome to be renamed Colonia Lucia Annia Commodiana, the months to be changed to his full name, the legions to Commodianae, and the city's inhabitants to be known as Commodianus. In the year 192, at the age of 31, Commodus became the target of a plot. Initially, the plan involved his concubine Marcia poisoning him. But when this attempt failed, the freedman Narcissus was ordered to strangle him while the emperor was bathing. Following his death, Rome plunged into a tumultuous period known as the Year of the Five Emperors, with multiple claimants vying for power. In the assessment of historian Dio Cassius, Commodus's reign represented a transition from a kingdom of gold to one of iron and rust. Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, widely known as Nero, served as Rome's fifth emperor. Born in AD 37 in Anzio, he ascended to the throne in AD 54 at the youthful age of 16, following the demise of his uncle Claudius, who had adopted him. Interestingly, Claudius favored Nero over his own son, Britannicus. Initially, Nero's rule saw relative positivity, likely influenced by his tutor Seneca and prefect Sextus Afranius Burrus. He garnered favor among the populace for his lavish spending on public entertainment and his pursuit of peace with Parthia. However, various contemporary and later historians depict Nero as a merciless killer. He initiated his reign of terror by ordering the assassination of Britannicus, his potential rival and Claudius's biological son, a day before Britannicus turned 14. Nero also orchestrated the murder of his own mother, Agrippina the Younger, although the motive behind this heinous act remains unclear. Furthermore, he sanctioned the killing of his cousin and first wife, Claudia Octavia, daughter of Claudius, with whom he shared an unhappy marriage devoid of heirs. Later, Nero extended his deadly reach to Antonia, another daughter of Claudius, who had refused his hand in marriage. The most emblematic and controversial event of Nero's life occurred during the Great Fire of Rome in AD 64. According to historians Suetonius and Dio Cassius, Nero himself was suspected of igniting the fire, allegedly with the intention of rebuilding the city to his liking. They depict Nero's callous response, describing how he sang merrily as Rome was engulfed in flames. However, Tacitus presents a contrasting narrative, suggesting Nero's absence from Rome during the fire. Upon his return, Nero purportedly took steps to assist the impoverished victims. Nevertheless, Tacitus also recounts a darker twist, as Nero, amid rumors implicating him in the fire's inception, allegedly shifted blame onto Christians. This led to a brutal crackdown on Christians, with many subjected to gruesome executions, including being mauled by dogs, burned alive, or crucified in large numbers. The narcissistic Nero even competed in the ancient Olympic Games, where, though he didn't excel in any event, he was declared the victor in all, including the chariot race, despite a fall preventing him from completing it. In AD 68, the Senate declared Galba emperor and labeled Nero a public enemy. Nero escaped Rome, but according to historian Suetonius, he ultimately committed suicide with the aid of his secretary Epaphroditus, who assisted him in stabbing himself just as a soldier approached. Heliogabalus was born as Sextus Varius Avitus Bassianus in the year 203 or 204 in Emesa, present-day Syria. Curiously, he would not come to be known as Heliogabalus until some time after his death. During his early years, he served as a priest of the god Elagabalus, a solar deity of Syrian origin. Thanks to a plot orchestrated by his grandmother Julia Maesa, he was proclaimed emperor at the young age of 14 in the year 218. From the outset of his reign, Heliogabalus distinguished himself with his eccentricities. He elevated the deity of his homeland, Elagabalus, as the most powerful in Rome, even surpassing Jupiter, the quintessential god in Roman religion, much to the dismay of the populace. the emperor's private life also stirred controversy. He married 5 different women, including the Vestal Virgin Julia Aquilia Severa. This caused significant unrest, as Vestal virgins were required to maintain their chastity for the 30 years of their service to the goddess Vesta, with those who violated their vow condemned to be buried alive. However, it seems that Heliogabalus's greatest love was his blonde-haired slave Heracles, who served as his auriga, guiding his horse-drawn carriage. Historian Dio Cassius recounts that Heliogabalus took pleasure in using makeup, removing hair, and wearing wigs to involve himself in prostitution, both in taverns and brothels, and even within the imperial palace. Dio Cassius also reports that Heliogabalus offered a large sum of money to any physician who could provide him with female genitalia. For this reason, some historians consider Heliogabalus to be the first transgender man. Interestingly, the individual who conspired for Heliogabalus to ascend to power, his grandmother Julia Maesa, was the same person who attempted to remove him due to the growing rejection by the populace. Julia Maesa sought to place her other grandson, Alexander Severus, on the imperial throne. Initially, she persuaded Heliogabalus to appoint Alexander Severus as Caesar, but the emperor soon changed his mind, much to the displeasure of the Praetorian Guard, who favored Alexander Severus. Ultimately, Heliogabalus was assassinated at the age of 18 in the year 222, along with his mother Julia Soaemias, by the very Praetorian Guard tasked with defending him. Following this, he was beheaded, and his naked body was dragged throughout the city before finally being thrown into the Tiber River. Gaius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, known as Caligula, was born in Anzio in the year AD 12 and became the 3rd Roman emperor. He was the son of the general Germanicus, who was adopted by Emperor Tiberius. Caligula acquired this moniker when, as a child, he joined his father on military campaigns, donning the soldiers' caligae, leading them to dub him Caligula, which means little boot. He ascended to the throne in the year AD 37 at the age of 24. Initially, he treated the legionaries and the Praetorian Guard generously, likely to win their favor, but soon this extravagant spending compromised the empire's economic stability. Contemporaries such as Philo of Alexandria and Seneca the Younger depict Caligula in a highly negative light, describing him as a volatile madman, a spendthrift, and with disturbing sexual proclivities. They claim that Caligula boasted of sleeping with his subjects' wives and killed for mere amusement. Later historians like Suetonius and Dion Cassius accused Caligula of engaging in incestuous relationships with his sisters Agrippina the Younger, Julia Drusilla, and Julia Livilla, even forcing them into prostitution. He also faced accusations of ordering his soldiers to carry out nonsensical tasks, like collecting seashells from a beach. Perhaps the most infamous of his alleged deranged ideas was his attempt to appoint his horse, Incitatus, as consul and priest. Ultimately, in the year AD 41, at the age of 28, Caligula was assassinated in a plot orchestrated by the Praetorian Guard, led by Cassius Chaerea, seeking vengeance for the emperor's humiliating treatment. These have been some of the individuals considered as the worst emperors witnessed by glorious Rome. They were accused of being extremely cruel, merciless killers, involved in sexual deviance, megalomaniacs, and spendthrifts. However, we must not forget that many of these accusations were made by ancient historians who, in addition to having their own biases and interests, mostly came from the wealthy classes, who sometimes opposed certain policies of the emperors. In any case, all these rulers, with their strengths and weaknesses, are irreplaceable pieces in understanding the fascinating puzzle that makes up Roman history.